program is brought to you by FanDuel, where we give sports fans the chance to win every day.
Welcome. We got a good show to talk about, a good game to talk about today. This is Propels Talk. The New Orleans Pelicans defeating the Memphis Grizzlies 114-106, earning a split of their season series and winning the first game of what will be an interesting back-to-back as the Pelicans head to Philly tonight and get ready to take on the Sixers tomorrow. I, of course, am David Grubb. He is Chris Connor. Y'all go ahead and hit that like button and leave your comments, of course, below. We will get to your questions. We will recognize the super chats. But first, Chris, how you doing in this cold weather we are experiencing up here in the Midwest?
You know, I felt really cold until Justin told me that they shut down school in the city because it was 36 degrees. So once I found out that they were shutting down school for 36 degrees, I'm like, man, fine, man. We had negative what felt like negative 20 a week back, something like that, -8 the other day. But it sounds like we getting a little warm. Like we get to the 20s, dog. And you still got to go outside.
That's right. That's right. Well, who was warm tonight? The New Orleans Pelicans. That's a transition. That's what you call that. The New Orleans Pelicans defensively, I think that's the big thing we're going to talk about, particularly in the third quarter. Their best defensive third quarter of the season, holding the Grizzlies to 15 points in the third, 1 of 11 from 3 for the Grizzlies as well for the Pelicans there. This was not a game where the Pelicans offense looked fantastic. It looked good in stretches, but this was a game, and we've seen this lately. For the first time this season, the Pelicans have held 3 straight opponents under 110 points. They haven't done that since November of last season, not last year, of last season. And they only did those. That was the only stretch they did it last season. So this is a pretty significant stretch of defensive prowess for the New Orleans Pelicans, especially considering they gave up 120 plus to the Grizzlies in just about every other matchup this season against them. So, Chris, let's start with the defensive side of the basketball. How impressed were you with the Pelicans' effort there tonight?
So, yeah, Grub. I mean, you can start with how well they took away the ball tonight. They won the turnover battle. I think it was about 4 or 5 different players that had multiple steals, which always comes in handy. And then I think something that was interesting to me, Grub, is that it felt like they really stuck to the scouting report tonight. If typically when Jaren Jackson beats you, he's gonna beat you at that free throw line. That's what he typically has beat the Pelicans inside the the 3-point line, inside the arc. Being able to to set up on blocks as a driver or setting up in the middle of the floor. If Jaren Jackson wants to take 10 threes and try to get hot and beat you that way, okay, cool. We'll live with it. The Grizzlies aren't the greatest rebounding team necessarily, so we can get some of those longer rebounds. Jalen Wells shot, I think, 4 tonight. There's been games throughout this year where Jalen Wells, I think the last game in New Orleans, Jalen Wells had a really good game against the Pelicans. But if he's going to beat you, he's shooting like 30% from 3 on the season. Let him shoot him. I think, G.G. Jackson, another one. If he's going to beat you tonight, let him beat you. Vince Williams is shooting like 29%. Vince shot 7 threes tonight. If he's going to beat you, let him beat you. And, not only did the scouting report win, I think, from that perspective, but I think you watch the attention to detail. I watch closeouts, specifically from Zion. Just be different against certain guys. Like okay, Wells, like I'm not gonna overreact here to you shooting the ball. You're gonna have to beat us. And in that third quarter, Grub, I'm glad you brought that up. The Pelicans dominated right in the paint in the first half. And the thought was for them to be a 3-point game, it's like eventually like if there's a time, the tide's gonna turn it. Probably this third. All right, back. But ultimately, the tide turned in the third quarter. The Grizzlies couldn't find a shot, and the guys you wanted shooting the ball or taking the attempts did, and Pelicans took advantage of them in transition, and typically how they should do in the paint.
I think the Pelicans did a good job of making the Grizzlies take the shots that they wanted them to take in the third quarter, because Memphis is not a great three-point shooting team. They have to get those shots to the right people, and they did not do that. And the Pelicans took advantage of that. I thought that the threes that the Pelicans hit on the offensive side, those came in rhythm, particularly Jose's down the stretch of the third quarter. The three that he hits in a row are all in rhythm shots for Jose. And I thought that the ball movement in those situations for the Pelicans, people took good shots. You saw Herb Jones, who has been struggling with his shot since he came back. I thought his shot selection is particularly off misses. I mean, the one in in transition, I believe, is in the fourth quarter when Herb does the Euro and gets the layup. I think that was late third. But those kind of finishes in transition, it was decision making. The Pelicans took the right shots. They did not fall. They took a good volume of shots from the right people, even with Trey's missing. I thought we'll get into that, but I thought, just as you said, they stuck with the game plan, and I think that they've been more disciplined in this stretch, particularly on the defensive end. It has, and this is the switch that Borrego made too, and I think you have to give him credit in altering the starting lineup and not really having a guard in that group, and having Herb and Trey and Bey and Queen and Zion. That defensively has changed games for the Pelicans, and they had been getting off to these such bad starts defensively with Jeremiah or with Poole on the court. In those for starts, you needed to have some stability defensively, and I think that's given them the chance, even when they haven't gotten off to great starts offensively. It's given them a chance recently to compete even against better teams.
Yeah, and I think with that lineup, Grub, what matters is, number one, the wingspan improves, right? The size improves, so the floor automatically shrinks for the opposing team, and you have less people to pick on. We've seen less players to isolate again. The player you would probably want to get in space the most would be Derek Queen, but even Queen, while he's not the strongest defender, he's going to attempt it out there. He's gonna get his hand on a few deflections. He's gonna block a few shots. I think he had 2 blocks tonight. So when they're engaged in that lineup, and with how well Herb plays mentally and physically on the floor, when the floor shrinks and you have as many people engaged, if Zion's engaged, Saddiq's a solid defender, not a great defender, but he's low to the ground, doesn't make too many mental mistakes, and makes the right plays, goes in for the right rebounds, those kind of things. And now they're also, the work, some in previous years, the Zion, Herb, Trey lineups didn't rebound as strongly as you would like them to. Well, you're getting better games from them there as well. So I think the personnel helps. I think the size, definitely helps as well. But more than anything, I mean, we've been talking about, it's been a lot of different starting lineups over, since Zion's come to New Orleans and company, in which teams have been able to isolate one particular player in the starting lineup and just take advantage, put them in pick and rolls, get them in space, isolate them on the side, get them in foul trouble, take advantage of their aggressiveness, get them on back cuts. Herb being back and the rest of the lineup, the way that it's set up, it just takes pressure off of so many guys that, maybe Trey may get lost in, defensively in rotations, maybe, Zion falls asleep from time to time. And, we talked about Queen, but when you have that level of talent in Herb, and you have that level of size, and these guys that seem to be getting a little bit more comfortable and communicating better on the end defensively, it's, I won't call it similar to what the Pelicans did, years ago with Jonas and company, in which the lineup didn't have a bunch of defensive stoppers, but you got consistency and you had enough size and you had enough players that were all comfortable together, and Herb Jones out there to where most nights you weren't going to be embarrassed on that side of the floor. And a lot of times that's really all you need from them, just not being embarrassing out there on that side.
When you look at it, the guys at the top of that triangle, Herb, Trey, Bey, 8 steals between them. That's a big difference than what you were getting with Jeremiah Fears up there. He just has not been able to be a deterrent defensively. So that subtle change, and again, I think we need to stick on this in a minute, is giving Borrego his credit in saying to both of these rookies at this stage now, still giving them their minutes, but also it seems as he's conditioning more and more about earning second half minutes. You know what I mean? And putting them in a position for Jeremiah Fears saying, hey, you have not been doing well in the starting lineup. I'm not giving up on you, but you're still going to play. But you got to earn those down the stretch minutes if you want to be on the floor. Tonight, he was on, got some meaningful minutes in the second half. Tonight, Derek Queen, who we'll talk about too, meaningful minutes in the second half. What do you think about what Borrego has done just over these last couple of weeks?
I mean, Grub, it's the balance, man, with young talents, and especially someone in Fears who isn't your natural like your regular or your usual young talent. You're talking about someone who's 19, right? So, and it was unclear, at least maybe to some of us, how quickly and how often he would play. He's played a lot more, I would think, than any of us imagined, being however many games we're now over 40. So, or what, 50 now? Huh?
50 games 50. Now, yeah.
Yeah. So, we talked about this a week ago or 2 weeks ago, how you wanted to see at some point if Borrego would kind of ring Fears back just a little bit, and Queen to an extent, but specifically Fears, to get him in a better situation and shift his perspective. It's not too late in the year to shift his way of viewing the game and looking at the game and finding different ways to learn. Because look, Derek got a lot of people in his ear all the time. Sits next to DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre's always in his ear. Fears doesn't really have anybody like that. It's not another guard. Jose to a degree, but Jose isn't going to give Fears the type of knowledge or the type of connection that, say, DeAndre can give Queen. They're in different parts of their careers. So you don't really have that personal Fears. He's kind of trying to figure this out as he goes. So Borrego pulling him back a little bit and saying, hey, you're not necessarily failing, man, but we got to make a change here. What's up, bro? What's up, hot boy? We got to make a change here, but here's where it can benefit you. And for Fears, it's like we talked about. Put him in situations where he can just go out there and play. Right now, where he can just attack, and his mistakes don't cost you games. It doesn't cost you big runs. It doesn't cost you, like in the beginning of the fourth quarter where he was out there and the Grizzlies had an 11-0 run, I believe. Fears was in the game for the most of it. It didn't kill you. It hurt you, but it didn't kill you. You get off to 11-0 start in the first quarter, those type of things can kill you. So, we, instead of us talking about us putting a magnifying glass to Fears, in 17 minutes, we can talk about some of the things that he did actually do well, some of the ways he slowed down, some of the attempts that he took, the steals. I think he had back-to-back steals to end the third quarter, which was huge. He gets a dunk on the end. It's just that perspective and shifting him back a little bit. I think it changes things for him, and it also changes the view and the lens in which we're looking at him as, which for somebody like him who's supposed to make mistakes, who's supposed to be young, who's supposed to struggle, who's supposed to fail, supposed to have flaws, that's the way we should be viewing it, even for a team that's won 13 games.
I think it's interesting, too, because the way Borrego's handled this, it has allowed Jose to still do what Jose does. Because when we talked about the beginning of the year, I was suggesting that Jose start, and that would be, at least you would have some kind of settling influence, but no point guard as far as like positionally saying, I'm going to leave both of these guys in positions where I think they can help me the most. I can employ Jose, allow him to expend all of his energy as a reserve, give you the intensity he gave you in the third quarter, momentum changing plays, but you didn't have to wear him down in the first quarter, taking on the team's frontline guard. You still had him there ready to do that. And you still have Jeremiah in a position, like you said, to be able to take chances defensively and offensively where it doesn't hurt the team and still have the opportunity to learn, but you are not put in a position where you have to carry the game. And so I think that that's a really good thing. That's just a development. We have said it all month. Look, I don't think anybody has said anything otherwise. It has been a bad month for Jeremiah Fears, a very bad month, huge regression across the board. But tonight, at the very least, I think he was active and he didn't take things off the table. And that's, like you said, it's shifting his mindset over the rest of the season where he's likely not going to be the starting point guard every night. Okay, now what's the rest of your season have to look like? And I think that's a good thing to do right now.
Grub, and I think the change there, it's no different. I guess the message or the goal, the mission for Fears is no different than what you're seeing now that some of these guys are healthier, and we kind of, with this group right now that's playing, you kind of get an idea of who's playing every single night. But this particular group, because we know what they can't do, right? We know the one thing that they cannot do is shoot the ball. We know that. But it's when Herb is back and Saddiq's out there and healthy, and with this starting group and Jose's back, like, it allows them, so many of the different guys, to just focus on what they do well. Nobody really has to overplay their hand or do things or over carry, as you mentioned. Jose, energy plays. That third quarter, that's Jose. In transition, a couple rebounds and a couple big threes. You needed that lanyard because the Grizzlies started off the fourth quarter, like most teams just seem to do against the Pelicans, really well. So without that run, without Jose having that third quarter, who knows how this game is? Maybe it's a lot closer. Maybe Grizzlies are, we're talking about a Grizzlies win. But Jose just being out there, being able to be Jose, it matters. Carlo, same thing. Hey, bro, just go out there, be active, run the floor. When you have an opportunity to shoot a three, whether it be in transition or in the half court, shoot it. That's it. Jump, get a block, like high energy plays. That's what he did. Played about 14 minutes, had a block, hit a three, a few rebounds. That's it. Tonight wasn't Misi's night, but another matchup it may be the way, just go out there and be you. Tonight you play 14, you might play 24 the next night. You don't know. Herb, you mentioned, you let off the show talking about do what you do. We know what you're going to bring defensively, but your best gift to us offensively is what you can do in transition with the basketball. That's your best gift. And in the half court, as a driver, I don't think we talk enough about some of the things he can do getting into the teeth of the defense. With Herb, it's always how does he finish? And he did a good job, I think, finishing at the cup tonight. Because the Grizzlies dared him to shoot all night. And maybe in previous nights, Grub, he took 3 threes tonight. Maybe in previous nights, he takes 7 or 8. That wasn't needed. That's not what they needed for him. Zion, wrecking ball, same thing. 21, he didn't do as much in the second half as he did in the first half, but when it was his time, it was his time. Trey had a horrible night, but Saddiq knew it was his job to take them pinch post opportunities, make a couple threes, be able to be one of the leading team, leading guys in scoring. And Queen figured out the Grizzlies tonight. He figured out even with the turnovers, 22, 9, and 7, one of his best full complete performances in a while now, and against a team that he's had some. I think he averaged like 7 points a night in their previous games. Had one of his best games, just taking advantage of the fact that he's made some mental adjustments and where the Pelicans had him on the floor.
And so let's do Zion really quickly, because it didn't pick up another double-double. But a very efficient first half in particular for Zion on the offensive end. And he did a lot of things in the first half. He did have his assists came in the first half. His rebounds really came in the first half. But again, when he was there in the fourth quarter, defensively, he did enough down the stretch. He stayed active, and I thought that was important. And he did not, even as the Grizzlies came at him and tried to force the ball out of his hands, he didn't make bad decisions down the stretch. So I thought Zion played well in control, and has been in a good stretch of basketball lately. Not a dominant stretch, but you have gotten consistently good play out of Zion. And obviously that's key if you're going to do anything as far as winning basketball games for this team. You muted,
I
Chris.
muted myself. Yeah, I muted myself. All right. Also, while we're here, Chris, I appreciate the reminder, man. Yo, man, shout out Theos, man. Shout out all the good people that support us here, man. From FanDuel to John Deere to Sunshine to Scott Vickner. You know, you fight for the win. I'm happy to have Theos back, man. Appreciate the love there, Chris. That fast, I forgot what you asked me, girl. Get me back on track.
Well, I just say for Zion, you know, just not dominant, but you've had consistent stretches out of him these last few games. And if the Pelicans have any chance of winning, he's got to play consistent basketball. He's done a pretty good job of that lately.
Yeah, and I think he wins, girl, when he doesn't force the issue. I know we have a lot of conversations on this show about wanting Zion to shoot more. And I've been saying it for a while. I just don't think he's a guy that can right now. I just don't see. I think your best bet with him is some shot attempts or sacrifice because he's getting to the free throw line more. But I just can't tell you of a guy that's his size that takes up as much space, as much gravity, and as much attention as he does, that is so drive to one side, layup, dunk, within 5 feet centric, without a jumper, that is going to get up 20 shots a night. I just think it's too hard, man. It's too difficult. If you told me that he was this post savant, maybe I could see it. But I can't see somebody that is able, without shooting a jumper, that's going to give you 15 shots a night, 16. I think he averages about 15. But if you're looking for 18, 19, 20, I don't see it. But 11 attempts, the previous game against the Thunder, 10 tonight. Some nights is going to be that way. For him, it's just not forcing the issue. You don't have to continue hitting that button because you only got one counter, if that.
Chris, we have to address something. And Lito makes a point here.
Yeah.
That there's a green top.
Yeah.
There's a purple base.
Yeah.
You are giving eggplant vibes, my friend.
Yeah.
What do you have anything to say to the people about your attire and your resemblance to said eggplant?
Yeah. I mean, it's 9:30, man. Don't judge me. A lot of y'all are sending out eggplant emojis right now and not getting responses. Don't get mad at me. You know what I mean? I'm just channeling y'all energy. I'm a man of the show. Whatever the show is supposed to be about, that's who I am. Now I may or may not be dressing a little bit like the skeleton here, or maybe not. Or, sorry, Pierre. Or I could be an eggplant. Whatever you want me to be, that's what I am. That's what I am. So shout out to all the people that are getting responses out there when y'all sending them eggplant emojis. Be responsible, drive responsible, drink responsible, use protection, or don't.
Consequences, whatever they may be. Quick note on the defensive side. Tonight was just the 8th game this season where the New Orleans Pelicans held an opponent to 43% shooting or less. How important is that for the Pelicans? In those 8 games, they are 6-2. That's just the 8th time. Again, we have said they don't have to be a great defense, Chris. We'll take care of that later. They don't have to be a great defense. But tonight, and for a couple of games now, they've been a good defensive team. They have provided resistance. They have closed possessions on the glass. They've limited teams from getting those second chance opportunities and hitting a lot of open threes, especially guys on the bench, which is always a problem for the Pelicans. I mean, defensively, what else are you seeing besides just the changes in the starting lineup?
I mean, you see guys giving effort and communicating, Grub. You know, you're not seeing as many lost possessions just based off of somebody not getting to that corner. You know, you're not seeing as many dumb possessions where, you know, or wasted possessions on that side of the floor. You know, I think what they did tonight against the Grizzlies has been what they've been trying to put together the past few games, and just making the right play, sticking to the smart basketball play, knowing who to close out on, knowing who not to. And and I'll say more than anything though, man, what has been a problem for this team for quite some time, Grub, is you mentioned the second chance opportunities. You know, there's been times where the Pelicans have had really good defensive possessions, but they get killed because they give a second and a third offensive rebound, or teams are able to just outwork them. And that hasn't been happening, or it's not consistent with the team that's only won a handful of games this year. So I think that's the key. Which is, I think it's a good sign, because look, man, 50 games, you only got 32 games left. It's a lot of dudes right now that's already thinking about what they're doing in the summer. Some dudes thinking about where they're going after the trade deadline. Some of these players have been mentioned consistently within trade rumors. There's a bunch of distractions to be thrown out there. I mean, across the board, it's telling that at a point in a year where the season is pretty much over, some guys won't be returning, some guys will be traded. You're seeing them make one of their better stretches on that side of the floor, because defensively, it's about effort. And it's a lot of teams. I mean, if you were bad to start defensively, it's hard to see you make this kind of switch right now. You're not playing for anything. There's no real goal outside of guys maybe thinking about different homes, or trying to build chemistry with the guys that will be here in the future. So I think you got to give Borrego a little bit of credit, and you got to give Herb Jones a lot of credit as well. I mean, I think him and Jose returning, there's certain guys that just bring that level of energy and comfort to the rest of the guys when they're out there, because it's like, all right, we got him out there. We know we got a shot, and my job just got a hell of a lot easier.
Herb Jones, 16 points tonight. Pels 8-2 over their last 10 games under James Borrego. With a healthy Herb Jones is in the lineup, according to our friend Will Guillory from The Athletic. This is very interesting about Herb Jones, and I was looking at this tonight before we had the show. You take the top 12 rotation players for the Pelicans, and you match them up with each other as teammates. Still to this day, this season, no one has been a better teammate to more players on this team than Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a net positive with 5 of the 12 rotation players on this team. No other player on this team has that with more than 3, and those would be Yves Missi and Saddiq Bey. Herb still, like that, his value to this team. This is why when they talk about holding out for multiple first-round draft picks, this is why when teams say that they see his value, all the guy does is help your team win. It always looks better when Herb Jones is on the court. It does not matter what his shooting numbers have looked like, but they have been amazingly consistent. We have said this, that he is a winning player. The question is always going to be, until they make this decision, and this is the part that is the conundrum for the Pelicans, is I don't think his contract is absurd. I've said that. I think it's a good contract for the Pelicans as far as where they are position-wise. But I also understand, if you are going to rebuild, Herb Jones is 26 years old. You want to think about, is he going to be on the timetable of 2 to 3 years from now, and we have to pay him again? I get that too. What is let's put it this way. What is your value for Herb Jones at this stage? Is he more valuable to the Pelicans now, or is he more valuable to the Pelicans as part of a trade package to secure the future of the franchise?
I think the question of that question depends on what you in an open market can truthfully get for him. If you're telling me that you can get 2 first-round picks for him, then his value is what you can are those 2 picks for the future of this franchise. Because at the end of the day, Herb is a winning player, but this team isn't going in a winning direction, or they're not in a winning state. So you can't get you can't get the best out of him. Like, versus those 2 first-round picks, more valuable than what Herb can get you right now in a losing situation. If you're telling me you can only get 1 first-round pick or something like that, I don't know if you're better off trading someone who's this helpful. Throw out the win. Even if he was let's say him, he wasn't attached to victories. Anybody that makes everyone else's job easier and is that helpful will always be an asset. You always find room for guys like that. It's why Jose stayed around for so long, for better, for worse. Anybody that makes that is low usage, that is selfless, that's not a distraction, is quiet, and that is that, and it's a glue guy in a good way, they're always going to be valuable. So, I think, ultimately, it really just depends what's the true value for him in the open market. And if it's 2 first-round picks, you have to say, we have to cash our chips in and maximize. We don't know if we'll be able to get this again. We don't want to get rid of him, but this kind of trade, we cannot pass up. We have to take it. It's what's best for us in the future of our franchise. Damn what we got going on next year. Even if you had your pick for next year, you should still in a situation when you only have 12 wins and you should be thinking about the future. It's something you should be capitalizing on. And I think the interesting part about this, Grub, and I'll let you go, is that I think another reason that you strongly have to be focused on whatever the maximized trade value is for Herb Jones is because of the fact that if you wanted to move Zion, it's unlikely you can get 2 first-round picks for him. Herb Jones has a higher trade value, while Zion is a better basketball player. And he's not a better complete basketball player, but he's a better basketball player. And he's the better talent, and he's a better, he's more gifted. Herb Jones right now gives you better value. So you don't have many assets once you get past Saddiq Bey. And if you're gonna keep Trey Murphy, and we're talking about Yves Missi, is he worth this? Is he worth that? If you know Herb Jones for sure can get you something meaningful going forward with the spot that you're in right now, even if it hurts you, even with everything that you said, you have to do what's best for this franchise and think 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
I think what we're gauging here, and we've said this plenty of times, there's nobody on this roster that you would say is untouchable. You can't say that for a team that's going to win at the most 20-something games. But when you need to adequately assess the value, and I think when people are very dismissive of Herb's value, there's one player that Zion Williamson is a net positive with this year. That's Herb Jones. There's one player that Derek Queen is a net positive with this year. That's Herb Jones. There's one player that Saddiq Bey is a net positive with this year. And that's Herb Jones. So when you talk about these guys, and it's barely with him and Eve and Trey, those are barely negatives. And it's been that kind of season for all of those guys. But I'm saying, if you're keeping Zion, Herb Jones is the only guy who's playing well with him. If you're building around Derek Queen, Herb's the only guy who's playing and even when you look at Jeremiah Fears, Herb Jones is giving you the best numbers in bad numbers with Jeremiah Fears. So he's stabilizing these guys. This moron right here. All right, hey moron. It said 8-2 in the last 10 with Herb Jones in the lineup, not 8-10 in the last 2 overall. Okay, so don't be loud and wrong. to talk. All right, so I think that we just have to be accurate about his value, and this is why teams are coming after Herb Jones. Now, pause. But if you are looking to get that kind of player, I think the Pelicans, are. If the value is that high, you have to be serious about looking at moving him. But his value is high. His value is high. So let's go on to Saddiq Bey, who again had another very strong performance for the Pelicans, played well, and has been a stabilizing force for this team for a good while now. Another guy that we're talking about on the trading block. And his contract is a tremendous value. He looks like a guy that could be a great boost for a team that's competing for a championship. He scores at all three levels. He defends. He can even get hot from 3-point range. What is Saddiq Bey's future with the Pelicans? Because you're going to have to talk about paying him too. Do you have to wait to see if you can offload Poole, Murray before you make a real decision on Saddiq Bey's future?
Again, Grub, I think it depends if you get a deal if you get someone that's thirsty for what Saddiq can bring on the basketball floor, then you make that move first. I think on the priority list, it has to be offloading Poole and Murray. 100%. I think that's where they're at right now. That's what's best for everybody involved. Not just the Pelicans. That's what's best for Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray. That's number one. And I think number two is probably Saddiq Bey. And if he's two, the only way he doesn't overtake, the only way he overtakes Murray and Poole is if you get a team that's, willing to be, I won't say irresponsible, but they're willing to offer a competitive trade that maybe is better than, what's out there on the market. If you're just talking about a couple seconds for Saddiq Bey, well, no, I can wait on that. I'm okay. I'm cool. If you're talking about, and me easily knowing I'm getting back into this draft next year, then yeah, you 100% do it. Because if I'd have told you in the offseason last year that you could have got a first for Saddiq Bey, you probably wouldn't believe me. So he's gotten himself back to the Saddiq that was playing in Atlanta. And he's even a better version of that, I think right now. So he's raised his value since the guy that was recovering from an injury and missed all of last year. You got to be able to take advantage of that. I think, again, man, Pelicans are in such a weird situation. I was listening to the Grizzlies broadcast and they were saying like, you see the vision and there's so many different parts here with this team to where whether they decided to stay pat or they decided to move, you can make an argument for either different direction, because if they're healthy, you got to wonder if they can put it together. But a guy like Saddiq Bey who, look, he's going to be like wing players that can score the basketball, that know their role, that are role players, are always valuable around. I mean, they're valuable all the time, but around the trade deadline, every team needs that. Every team is looking for that. Whether I think you're a six man, whether I think you can help stabilize our starting lineup, whatever the case may be. I mean, look, man, at the end of the day, the Pelicans got way more, I think, at this point than they expected to get him from Saddiq Bey. For somebody who we thought was coming off the bench to start the year. That's what we talked about. Him coming off the bench. Mm-hmm. He's been starting in someone who is entrenched in that starting lineup now. And unless he's traded, will not be moving there. Like, you won. You won on that particular asset. If you have an opportunity, I think, to capitalize and put him in a winning situation, do it. If you think he can be a part of this core, whomever it is, and you want to start thinking about, talking to him about an extension, I'm not mad at that either. But the Pelicans have to be in asset gathering mode, Grub. And the thing about Saddiq is that, again, he's raised his value. If he was a stock, he was a penny stock when you got him. Not anymore. You got to sell. You got to sell high if you can, even if he's another good veteran piece that could help you compete in the next few years with this group.
Here's the question. I think it would take a type of home run offer during the season to move Bey. But the worry is that the Pelicans don't have a ton of tradable assets. We have talked about it. You've got the positive tradable assets you have are Jose, Misi, and Bey. Like those are of the ones that are easy to move, right? Those are your three that are easy to move. Outside of Trey and Herb, who we're saying at this stage, the organization has said are untouchables. But those two negatives, Poole and Murray, and you have the negative asset in Jordan Hawkins. It has, it was posted, three dudes asking to move. We're all shooting below 40%. If you have to attach a positive asset to move the negative assets, how far are people willing to go? Because everybody wants to keep Bey, and I understand that. We are acknowledging you have won that part of the deal. He has given you everything you wanted and more. He could be a legitimate starter or sixth man for you, depending on what you have at this roster. But at the same time, if that's what it took to get the $34 million of bad player off of your roster, is that a fair price? That is a difficult question to answer. I can't answer it today because I haven't seen what the offer is. But if that's the price that you have to pay, do you think the Pelicans are willing to pay that price?
I think that they would have to. They would have to. You have to ask, is as well as Saddiq has been playing right now. And if you told me he was going to play the next 3 years in New Orleans, you wouldn't have an argument from me. I was a fan when he got to New Orleans of his game and his fit and what he was going to bring day one. But, if Saddiq Bey shouldn't be the reason next year or the rest of this year or the year after that, whether or not this team is good or bad. He may be a swing player for a team that goes, that has an opportunity of winning a series in the playoffs. He may be a swing player that helps a team, maybe get further into whether it be the play-in or chasing higher seeds in the Western or the Eastern Conference. But you shouldn't be viewing him, no matter how strongly you like him right now. I don't think you're in a position to be viewing him if he's what it takes to get a first round pick, get in the draft next year, and or get off of Poole and Murray, who getting rid of them by themselves is probably going to be difficult, or you're going to have some type of struggle there. If Saddiq is what it costs you, then ultimately you have to do it, because you got to, we got to be real about this. Everybody, I see a lot of things in the chat right now. We got to keep Herb. We got to keep Saddiq. We got to keep Trey. You can't keep everybody. You can't keep everybody in this situation. We got to keep Jose. Some of these other guys don't have the same amount of trade value. So if it takes a guy like Saddiq as an asset, unfortunately, to move off of these two, you do what you got to do. Because at the end of the day, if I told you it was going to take Herb Jones, then you'd really be mad. If I told you it was going to take Trey Murphy, then you really will be mad. And this is, and I said this earlier, dog. If I'm of the belief that they're not going to trade Trey Murphy, right? And I'm 80% sure that they're not going to trade Herb Jones. You said it. Where else do you go? If you told me Zion Williamson had trade value, and you told me that the Pelicans were going to trade Herb Jones and they were going to consider trading Trey Murphy, and I'm thinking about the future, then you can do whatever you want with Saddiq Bey. But if you're not trading Herb, you're not trading Trey. Zion's not a grand asset right now. Jose's not going to give you a big return back. Yves Missi is a question mark. Night to night, what's your most memorable moment of Yves tonight? That's the experience. So you keep going here, man, down the list. Where else are you gonna? You got to pick somebody. You ain't got to trade them all. You ain't got to trade Herb and Saddiq. But I do think you got to capitalize on one, because this is a business and this is a franchise, and this team has to operate as such, even when it means getting rid of players that are producing for them right now or become fan favorites. That's just a part of the game.
Can't overvalue your own player. And that's the thing, is like Saddiq's value is, like I said, if you're saying the Saddiq has peak value for a championship contender, well, we know the Pelicans are not that next year. No matter what, they're not that next year. It could be a playoff contender next year, sure. But we're not saying they're a championship team next year. Maybe the year after that. So then you're projecting for Bey, and his value may not be that at that point. And you'd be talking about a long-term, and we have to deal with the financial realities of where the Pelicans are and where the league is. And so much of this is contingent on those financial realities. If you are making a move for Zion, we are at the stage now where that cannot happen until the offseason. If you're making a move for Trey Murphy, it's not happening until the offseason. The same, I would say, with Herb Jones. You're trying to get now what you've perceived as adequate value for those players who have now proven in your mind that the value you're seeking is adequate. The parts for moving these other two guys, Poole and Murray in particular, if you're trying to do that, most likely you are taking someone else's negative asset too. Y'all are swapping a problem for a problem. It's just manageable for whatever reasons, and we are making that deal. But to do that, we have seen time and time again that you have to provide something else. If you are getting out from under that bad contract, then you may have to give me something else to incentivize, especially if you want draft capital in return. Mm-hmm. And the Pelicans have said that they want to be in the 2026 draft. Even when you take the Giannis part into it, the 2027 draft is considered a drop-off from the 2026. So everybody's trying to get into 2026. And I think that's the thing for the Pelicans is they have to be realistic. Somebody's going to go that Pelicans fans really like. Yep. Somebody's leaving that you really like. And that's just the reality of the business.
And, Grubba, I think for anybody that's watching like right now, and if you struggle with who to trade, who not to trade, why, if you focus on what they're doing today, right? You should always ask the why. Like the why with these players, like it's the most important thing ever. If this team was 37-13 right now, we'd be having you think we'd be talking about trading Saddiq Bey? Probably not. Will we be talking about trading Herb Jones? No. Trey Murphy? No. If this team had a first-round pick next year, would we be talking about the urgency to get draft pick for next year? Maybe not the same way. They're still 13-37, so you should be trying to gain as many assets in any way possible, regardless. But their situation matters, and the why matters. Saddiq's the talk about trading Saddiq or Herb Jones, it's not about what they provide right now to the Pelicans. It's not about it's not as if they're doing anything wrong. It's about your situation as a roster and as a team going forward. That's it. With a team that has a questionable future, once again, no draft capital next year, and you have to find a way to stabilize and continue to build on that. I've been told this many times. If you think you got a questionable future, you don't have a future. You like if your future is in question, it's not a great one. And for the Pelicans, they don't we're asking all these questions. Well, what, can Trey play winning basketball? Is Zion gonna, with year 7, with Zion, what's his future? He's gonna be traded. He's not gonna be traded. Trade him. Don't trade him. He's a star. He's a superstar. He's not. He's number 2. He's number 3. We go back and forth with this. You got your two rookies that you drafted. We don't know what they're gonna look like year 2. We don't know who's gonna be the pillar. Who's gonna be leading this franchise by the time a year from now? We don't know what the plan is 2 years from now. The vision isn't clear. But you know what helps with that vision? Is making moves like this when you have to. And the why is it's just that simple. If you have to make a move and you are in a situation where you don't know if you are going to be able to get the kind of value for certain guys right now, there might be a guy right now that you might not trade on on the Pelicans under any circumstance. Troy Weaver and Dumars may have that player circled or those players circled. But in this case right now, when you have limited players that you either A, are gonna trade, or B, have trade value, you maximize on what you can. And that's the why. If you had more, if Messi was more of an intriguing talent, I would say throughout the board, throughout the league, if you had a bunch of people lining up to giving you first round picks for some of your bench players, for Carlo or for Alvarado, or if Kevon Looney had a great year, or Jordan Hawkins was living up to his potential, we would be having a different discussion, dog. But you look on that bench, you either got guys that you're not trading or it's not going to get you much in the market. Go up and down there. It's not great. Jose, as solid and as much of an energy guy as Jose is, if you decide to trade Jose Alvarado, you're not getting the first round pick. So, you keep going. I don't think Messi's getting you a first round pick. So you keep going up now. Where is it coming from on that bench? You have to give away Poole and Murray. They're not fetching any draft capital. So where are we back? At the starting lineup. Queen's not going anywhere. Trey's not going anywhere. You're either hearing Herb's not going anywhere, or they're waiting for a crazy, ridiculous offer at the last minute. What do you have left? And you got to do something.
Somebody offers you a first rounder, and then this is just the reality of the NBA. If somebody were to offer you a first rounder for a player making $9 million, you're taking it. That's just, you are taking that pick. Because first rounders are that valuable. It's about the cost control, about the upside. You're taking that pick. And if somebody calls and says, we want Saddiq Bey and we will give you a first rounder in 2026, there's nobody in this chat. I can't believe that there's anybody who would say, no, pass on that pick. Because it's another chance. It's a chance. And you have to increase your margin for error. And the Pelicans right now we talk about this all the time. They have zero margin for error. Everything has to go perfectly for the Pelicans to do well. You have to increase that margin for error. And getting more picks is the way you do that, particularly with the economic realities of New Orleans.
And Grub, outside of maybe say the Zion, outside of like the guys that we're talking about right now, between Herb, Trey, and Saddiq's the guy. No one's trade value has or can fluctuate like his. He's the only guy out of the group. If he's worth the first round pick right now, and I'm just throwing it out there, but if he's worth the first round pick right now, are you sure he's worth the first round pick next year? I'm not. Now, Herb Jones, I'm pretty confident that his trade value won't change much between now and next year. It may become more valuable. Same with Trey. It's not going to change. Whatever you get for him right now, you probably get for him next year. You probably get for him down the line if you choose to go that route. Zion, maybe one of those guys whose trade value can fluctuate depending on consistency. But Saddiq, a role player, a dude who was coming off injury, who had the rebuild value, who's having maybe his best season as a pro right now, coming into an organization where we were confused about his role. We didn't know how this was going to work. He's way past what he was supposed to do. You got to take advantage of that, because you don't know and can't be sure that you will be here again for something like that. And what you don't want to be on is holding on to someone like that. And next year, damn, he only worth a second now. Or in the offseason, damn, nobody wants a Saddiq Bey no more. Y'all just wanted him. The deadline is it. But there's no one else that has that power right now on this roster of the guys that we're talking about. Saddiq's the one.
Especially if you're trying to move these other guys like that. He's a key piece in doing that. And I think even if you were going to be a factor in the Milwaukee Bucks, I think he gives you flexibility with that too. If people come looking for that pick, you hitch him to that as another piece to as leverage. So I think that's a reality for the Pelicans there. Let's go back to the game tonight. Pelicans did a great job in areas they had to do a great job. They win points in the paint, big margin. They won fast break points, which is not something that the Pelicans have typically done, but they were dominant there. Rebounding battle, they were essentially even there, and they got rebounds when they had to get them down the stretch. I thought they did a good job there. We've talked about how good the bench was tonight, whether you're getting production from Jose, And I think the rest of the rotation did a solid job for the Pelicans. Anything else you noticed tonight?
No, man. I mean, it feels like one of the things about these players, about these talents continuing to play together and being healthy. Like, you had parts of the year where guys were stepping on each other's toes, trying to get their opportunities. And now you're starting to see more relaxed. Like, I'm not pressing for the basketball right now because I know I'm gonna have my opportunity. My quarter's gonna arrive. I'm gonna get my shots. Saddiq, first quarter, that was his time. Derek Queen got the fourth quarter, had I think 8 points. 8 and 4. I think the Pelicans scored like 21 in the fourth. They needed all 8 points. Zion had a strong first half. Second half, Grizzlies made adjustments. Okay, not my time. It's your time. Herb got his when Herb had his third quarter. Jose had his third quarter. Like all these guys had their moments versus everybody stepping in front of each other, taking ill-advised shots. A lot of stuff came in the floor of the offense. And I think that's something that you can only really bring with time, whether it be time on task with coaching, time and task in a setup with different wrinkles, time on task with the players around you, and time on task with good players. Comfort in that. I think that's what's key. And part of that is shifting Jeremiah Fears out of the starting lineup to open up some more of those opportunities for those guys. But that's what you're noticing specifically in this group. And I think what that opens up, Grub, as long as this team's together, is that you'll see, maybe not against good teams. Every now and then they may surprise like they did against the Spurs. But if you're talking against average to below average, you're gonna see more games to where if Trey Murphy, if I told you he shot 2 for 14 tonight, I don't know if you'd have told me that they were winning by 8. If Trey had 8, they won by 8. But you'll see more games where if maybe Zion doesn't have it, they still have an opportunity to win. Or if someone else steps up, or Saddiq has a struggle and he has 6 points, someone else steps up and they have an opportunity to win. So that's what I'm seeing more and more. I'm seeing just a little bit more balance and more comfort with these guys playing together and knowing that their opportunities are coming. Just a little bit of pressing. And hey, maybe Queen played 34 minutes tonight. Even later in the game, they were giving him the basketball and because he had it going. The next night it could be Saddiq. The next night it might be Trey's night. That's with this interesting group of talent. That is how it should go. And it's a lot easier when you have this balance in the starting lineup and more of these guys are healthy together.
Basketball found the right people tonight for the shots. I think for the most part, even Trey's misses, he didn't take bad shots. I think he needed to continue to shoot threes because you don't have a lot of three-point shooters on this team. So his gravity in that sense of taking those shots was still necessary. He still did other things too. He rebounded. He played defense down the stretch. Not a great offensive game. He's had 2 very poor offensive games as far as shooting the last couple of games. You want to see him improve there. But again, with Derek Queen, though, I didn't realize this. This is the first time this season the Pelicans have won when he scored 20. They finally got a win in a game that he scored 20. So a milestone there. I think that it's important, though, because it was a 20 where he was really efficient. 8 for 12 from the floor. He was aggressive with the basketball. I really liked some of his on the short elbow on the wing rather than at the top of the key. Them running some actions where he was able to spin baseline and create some activity and get to the bucket, get to the free throw line. He made his free throws for the most part tonight. I just thought it was a really solid performance all around. Derek Queen did his job, and like you said, played 30+ minutes. Didn't look fatigued. Rebounded well in the fourth quarter as well. You're muted, Chris. You're muted.
I like
There you go.
I like Derek Queen having the basketball at the free throw line or on an angle. I think that's where his gifts shine best. Versus I don't know if he's if he's top of the 3-point line ready yet, because the floor just is spaced and it's different for him. Too many dribbles. His handle isn't 100% there. We know what he lacks quickness. Why? And that's where a lot of turnovers happen. He gets caught too often when he's creating there at a standstill. Now, as a passer, it's totally different. That's where you get a lot of the oops to Trey and company or Zion when he's at the top of the key there. But you get him at the free throw line, he doesn't have to take many dribbles. The fundamentals, the post work, the fadeaways, all those things can come into play. You can still get the passes on the back cuts, or if a trap comes, you can, he can swing over the corner, whatever the case may be. But on angles, he gets everything he wants on the floor. If he's at the nail, or even if he's a little bit further in, he gets every single option he wants. He can still see the floor. He has that opportunity to spin, like you said. He can shoot off of one leg, which he loves to do. Those where I think whether it's left or right, that's where he likes to shoot a lot of those one-legged fades. He made one tonight. And then you get an opportunity for a dude that, how many one-hand passes do we see him swing all the way over to the opposite corner? He loves those opportunities. And he's not he'll eventually be a really good face-up player, but he's back to the basket centric right now. That's typically where he shines. Face-up opportunities comes when he's in transition and he can run and have you all balance and euro and do all those things, swing throughs and those kind of things. But I think the alignment and, man, the patience, Grub, the patience and the accountability. You got reminders every game, bro. This ain't college no more. This ain't high school. There was a play in the fourth quarter where he tries to spin off of, I don't remember if it was Vince Williams or or whoever, and he throws the ball away. And that might have been a time where earlier in the year or a week ago, James was like, okay, get out of here. The camera pans directly on Derek Queen, and he looks around, looks at his team, and says, "It's my bad, I got you." Next opportunity he gets, makes a positive play. Those kind of things. Maybe earlier in the year, he gets a little bit too wound up about it. Maybe he's talking to the ref for a foul. Nah, he didn't sell it. It happened. I turned it over. So slowing down, the patience, getting in the right spots, I think that best fit him and his strengths. It all matters. And tonight, like, bro, just take what's available there. And I think 8 for 12 tonight. The rebounding was still there. And we know how much he loves to pass the basketball. Everything is there. But with Queen, man, I think the gift, Grub, with him is using his ability to pass the ball to open up everything else. When he's passing the ball first, when he's in that mindset, he'll get the space eventually that he wants to score the ball. The points will come. But passing the ball, looking for others, finding others, that's the gift in this current setup with the amount of players that need the ball, that he can illustrate that Jeremiah wasn't ready to illustrate just yet. So I hope he can continue to build on it.
I think the thing for Derek is being sudden. We know he's great at changing pace, but there are times where it's like he's waiting a half a second too long to do what he needs to do. Like it's that like a quarterback that transition from college is anticipating the window rather than seeing the window. And I think that's for Derek, that some of that is still existing for him when he's making decisions on the court. He's looking for the perfect window, or he's assuming windows sometimes, like on that pass that you're talking about, where it's basically he throws it over the shoulder and it's like, where you can't see the defender. Like that is, if you can't see your guy, you can't make that pass either. So, I mean, but those are rookie mistakes. But at the same time, when he plays like this, when he gets to the free throw line, when he's efficient and aggressive with his shot, like you said, it's you want him to be active passing, but the Pelicans need everybody to be a threat offensively. And if they know he can stand out there, I'm fine with Derek Queen standing, as you said, beyond the arc, because he's shooting 12% from 3 in January. So yeah, if you're the opponent, great, be out there. But in that mid-range, if he puts that ball on the ground for one dribble rather than having to take 2 or 3 and spin back and forth, he's giving himself a better chance. I do want to note this too before we move forward. I've got to give credit to Jeremiah Fears emotionally on the bounce back. Playing, having the issues that he had against Thunder. You look for him emotionally. What was he going to be like tonight? Was he going to try to prove something? Was he going to be out of pocket? Was he going to be disengaged? He didn't have, again, not a great game, but he played well tonight and he was in control of himself. And I thought that was a good bounce back for him.
That's a really good point, Grub. I mean, look, I mean, it's just natural, dog. Like I can't imagine what it's like to be 19 and have that amount of money and that amount of responsibility and being in that situation. I can't, because like you're dealing with college and still some high school or adolescent emotions while being a grown man trying to being in a professional around other grown individuals, dealing with whatever the hell else he got to deal with on or off the floor. So like for someone like like Jeremiah, who just knows one speed, and that speed is in his personality as well. Aggressive. He's gonna be aggressive on the floor, and his mindset is to not be pumped, not to back down, not to be intimidated. He wants to be the one to bring the intimidation. He ain't there yet, but to be able to be balanced with the ebbs and flows of this shit, whether you have a good game, whether you have a bad game, whether you pissed off about something that happened, and this defensive back mentality, we on to the next play, we on to the next game. That's going to be key for him for everything. Being able to manage that rage, being able to manage that want to show, that chip on your shoulder. That shit gonna follow him his whole career. That chip on his shoulder, it can be your best friend or it could be your worst enemy. And I think that's another reason that him being on the bench right now, whether it's for the rest of the year or if he starts some more games down the line, just relax. You ain't got to get it all right now. You don't, bro. You got a long way. You way ahead of schedule, way ahead of the program. But you got to relax. And whatever happened last game was last game. Whether it was a bad game, whether you got into it with somebody, hey, what you learn from that to bring to this game. And I think for somebody, that's still maturing, that's still learning game, that's still learning shit about this world, this life, I think that's really going to be important for him, man, because the minute that he learns to balance that shit and be even keel, it's going to be a problem. When he can decide when he wants to unleash, that monster, that's crazy. Whenever he decides that he wants to be that individual, that dog, whenever that is, and he could figure out, all right, right now, I don't have to be that. That's when shit is going to be, it's going to be scary for him, man. So, I like that, like you said, that he was able to kind of hold it together and just let today's game be today's game.
I'm really interested to see what happens tomorrow, because they do go to Philly to play the Sixers, and VJ Edgecombe, who, went just a few picks ahead of Jeremiah Fears in this draft. Another guy who's a very fast point guard, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger than Jeremiah. But I think it'll be interesting to see. And the Pelicans are going to need Jeremiah to play well against a team that has a great backcourt, a great young, talented, athletic, quick backcourt. So yeah, they're going to need him to play well, and let's see where he goes with that against the Sixers. Let's go into the questions. Got to start with the super chat. I'm gonna let you handle this one, Chris, because I don't think I want to handle this one. You go ahead.
Well, appreciate the $10, brother. I'm convinced Grubb and the other Pelicans guy, Jake, hates the Pelicans and treat this franchise like a minor league team. We just trade players only once they reach their prime, rinse and repeat. Well, I'll say this, man, and and I want y'all to. I'm not even gonna go into defense mode here, for anybody. I want y'all to realize that we wouldn't be talking about trading players or continuing a something, a culture, or continuing a cycle that continues if the cycle wasn't consistently brought in front of us. I think the minute that this franchise shows that they're about to go in an unforeseen direction and bring some consistency that we've never seen, all of that shit's gonna change. But you gotta realize, and I'm hoping you've been watching this shit for a long time. You've been watching the franchise for a long time. If you close to my age, or you as old as me, you know that whether it's different coaches, different personalities, whether it's different front office executives, different owners, it's been the same shit. It's been the same shit. They've been operating the same way. So you continue to run into these same frustrations, these same questions, these same demands. Like it continues because it's what keeps happening. They win 60 games. You ain't going to hear them talking about the same kind of shit. They in the Western Conference Finals, you ain't gonna hear them talking about the same shit. I guarantee you, when they went to when they were a game away from the Western Conference Finals almost 20 years ago, Grubb wasn't talking about we need to trade Tyson Chandler in the offseason. You know what I mean? Like the conversations were different, dog. But you got to realize they've had in 20 plus years, they've had winning records back-to-back years, I think 2 or 3 times. They've been in the playoffs back-to-back years. Twice in 20 plus years. There's no 3 straight years of making the playoffs. There's no 3 straight years of just being good. Like they haven't gotten even to a second
series wins.
You know what I'm saying? Not even one Western. So like we can't, and I ain't saying this to to fuck you over, bro. But I'm saying like that's just the reality of this shit. We react to the reality of what we've been shown and given. That's just it. This has been the process. When it changes, everybody else will.
Pierre's the best 12-year-old in the NBA. There's a lot of fear, and his alleged light-skin behavior, Chris. Is Jeremiah Fears going to beat the allegations of being a purveyor of light-skin behavior?
Hey, girl, we deal with a lot, bro. We deal with a lot, man.
We do deal with a lot.
We deal with a lot. I didn't make y'all women like me, man. I didn't make, I didn't make the girls like me, dog. I didn't make, I didn't ask to be fair skinned. I didn't ask for history to be history and my ancestors. It's a difference. We can get in that. But look, I didn't ask for none of that. I didn't ask for any of that. I didn't ask for, if I'm Jeremiah Fears, I took best care of what was given to me. And if I just so happen to be a little angry and a little irritated about how I'm treated from time to time, respect it. As long as I don't end up in prison and I'm doing what's best for my family and my community, you can't be mad at me.
How you prospect this shout out again? Can we talk about Saddiq Bey, because that's the real glue player for this team, at least for this season. Yeah, no denying that. I don't think anybody would deny that Bey has been, again, he's been the second most consistent and player throughout this season, I would say. We thought at the beginning of the year, we hoped that he would be a good 6-man. That's the hope, that he would give you maybe 10 points a night. And clearly he has shown you that he can give you 30 plus on any given night. He can give you double-digit rebounds. He can give you 5 threes in a game. So we have seen his versatility. He has been a glue guy. His attitude has been great. He has played physical on both ends of the floor, and he has been a tone setter. He is an asset to the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Chris?
No, none at all. Once again, man, I was very, very happy and positive and optimistic about what he was going to bring to the team. And even if I thought he was going to have a good year and be at his average, nobody, not even me, saw this, man. So I'm just, more than anything, even with the glue guy shit, I'm happy that somebody that missed an entire year last year and is staring down another contract extension for him and his life and his family. I'm happy that he was able to rebound and turn into even the best version of himself on a team that's, battling for ping pong balls that they can't even fucking cash in.
Quickly, your thoughts, and I know we can't get too much into this, but the Ja Morant trade, do you think that's a real possibility for the Pelicans, or has it been smoke in just an era where everybody's talking about something?
I think it's real suspicious. I think it's real suspicious that we heard that we heard this shit. Jordan Poole misses a game, and we get details about certain players that's involved, and we get the details about certain players that's involved after hearing that the Pelicans were just interested, and then a day or 2 days later, nah, that didn't happen. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not closing the door on the Ja Morant trade just yet. There is some type of smoke there. It ain't all or nothing. It may not be as intense as we were talking about, before, but it damn sure ain't a non-story. There's something there. Now, what happens, I don't know. Grub, if you want to speak about the crack cocaine in the 80s, you're more than willing to. It's not my era, but, any stories?
No. There's no crack stories for me. No. Everything I saw on crack was on TV. I don't know nothing about no crack. No crack for me. I lived in Walnut Bend.
No.
West Bank, no crack. No crack. There's crack probably there now.
I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't talking about it as a user. I was talking about the vision. Don't worry about it.
All right. Enough excuses. Jeremiah Fears has been awful. We can't keep defending these rookies. I don't know who hasn't said Jeremiah Fears has been one of the worst guards in the NBA in January. He just has, yeah. Defensively, offensively, he's shooting the ball terribly. For the most part, defensively he's been bad all year, but he was extensively bad throughout the month of January. But the reality is he ain't going nowhere. He has been moved out of the starting lineup. I think that was the right call. I wouldn't even mind if he had a couple games down in G League just to give him some opportunities to start and run the offense without without the consequences of winning and losing. I'm fine with that. But I think we know he's not going anywhere this season. Could he be part of a major trade if Ja Morant's in the deal? It does put his future in question. If you're adding a Ja Morant, what does that mean for Jeremiah Fears? But otherwise, yeah, he's hit the wall. But he's a 19-year-old point guard. We said him getting on the floor, he should not even been playing the minutes that he's played at his age. Him simply getting what you've gotten out of him in starts, to me, is a miracle for a kid coming out of high school. Basically, he should be in college right now, and here he is with the Pelicans. So, yeah, he's been bad, but what else are we supposed to do?
Grub, let me ask you something. What do you think? Whether, let's say you were in a situation to give him to give him advice, or just on your experiences watching the game, what do you think is key for a small guard, and even in this league, as the teams have gotten larger, backcourts have gotten bigger, stronger, but what do you think is key for a small guard in any to improve defensively? I mean, you have your limitations regardless, but what do you think is key?
Going to be his overall strength. It's because it's not just size. I mean, Muggsy Bogues 5'3", and it was his strength. Earl Boykins 5'5", strong. It was considered one of the strongest players in the league. Derrick Rose at 6'1" was one of the strongest players pound for pound at his position. There's a reason that Russell Westbrook at 6'4" has as many double-digit rebounding games because of that strength. Jeremiah Fears is going to be, can he physically man that position? Because he's going to have to stay in front of fast guards, of big guards. He's going to have to be able to close out on them and be a factor on both ends of the floor using his body on the offensive end too. Because the thing that we criticize him for is his inability to finish at times around the rim and to finish confidently. His physicality is going to determine that, but he shouldn't be here. Like we have to keep remembering that. But he's got to get stronger on both ends of the floor. Okay. All right. Bayou Sniper playing through Derek Queen better than anything else. I mean, look, for this team, you ain't got no point guard. You got to play through Derek Queen.
Anybody you can isolate.
Why can't we just let DeJounte Murray and Poole play out their contracts here as opposed to attaching valuable assets to dump them? It's not like we'll sign good free agents with cap space. Chris?
I want you to answer that one. I think you'll answer that better than me.
Okay, I would say the reason that you can't let them play out their contracts is because that's basically what you're saying is $60 million of I'm not playing these guys. Because they can't help you now. Like, once somebody has decided they've checked out, and it's clear that both of them have. Jordan doesn't want to be in New Orleans anymore. And again, whatever you think the reasons are that it's gotten to this point, that's where we are. DeJounte decided that well before the season started. We all anticipated that he would be gone and it didn't happen. So now these are toxic assets. Let's look at it from the housing market perspective. Remember, we had that crisis of housing, and they had to come in and do the TARP, Toxic Asset Relief Program, and they had to buy a bunch of bad assets. The government bought up all these bad assets from these companies. Jordan Poole and DeJounte Murray are not only bad assets for you, they're likely bad assets for somebody else. Because DeJounte Murray is a guy coming off his second major leg injury. He had one in San Antonio. Now he's had one in New Orleans. He wasn't shooting the ball well. He was considered a player in decline when he got to New Orleans by a lot of people. Am I incorrect, Chris? That people were saying that DeJounte was a risky deal just in coming to New Orleans. There were people who thought
a lot of Atlanta
people
glad
to see him go.
Yeah.
So he was a player who had lost the shine. Jordan Poole, another player that we said it was going to be all or nothing with Jordan Poole. It was either going to go great or it was going to go horribly. And the rest of the league was watching this. And they've seen it go horribly. And they're laughing at the Pelicans in that regard. Again, Pelicans took the risk, but this is what's happened. So if another team says, why would they come to you and say, I want those guys? It is, I'll take those guys, but you'll have to take this, and you'll have to give me something else. Like that's the reason there were dowries at one point, because fathers had to pay somebody to take their daughter. And I'm not saying it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but sometimes you had to pay somebody to take that young lady off your family's hands. So there's one less mouth to feed. So that's what the Pelicans are going to have to do. They have to pay a dowry to get some of these dudes off the roster.
Wow. That's the show. What? Oh God. Look, I ain't got nothing else. When do the Pelicans play again, Grub?
Tomorrow.
All right, tomorrow.
Well, we in Philly.
Well, yeah, you did right. Okay. Well, look.
So I don't think we'll be doing tomorrow, but Sunday, y'all be in there Sunday.
Yeah, we will. So, we will see y'all Sunday, man.
We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great night. Hit the like button before on your way out if you haven't done that already. For Chris Connor, for Theo's, for FanDuel, Sunshine, John Deere, and Scott McNair. This has been Pro Pels Talk. Pels got to win, y'all. Have a good night.